How's it going, guys? Rhino here, bringing you another response. This response is to a Christian comment, sort of a creationist, but it's not a huge deal. Basically, he posted a comment. My friend responded to it, and I'm gonna respond to that response in the form of a video here. So, this is what the comment says. At ThezRhino, I don't think anybody has actually seen God. Sure, prayers can be answered, but not in a way where he talks to you about it or anything like that. Things just seem to work out because of him. As for the people who are saying that, I'm guessing that they dreamed it or that they made it up to get more people to believe it, and thought what they were doing something good. Thought that they were doing something good. It is not an area I've looked into much, but that's my stance on that. As for creation books being dismantled, that's because the majority of scientists are atheist. Pretty sure on that one. Just as the majority of doctors are Christian. So of course they're going to get dismantled by scientists with a degree in evolution, with arguments revolving around evolution. Creation may start with the conclusion, but evolution starts with the beginning of a few molecules of who knows what, which how did they exist in the first place, or the physics that made them exist, or even the explanation for their existence is what I trying to guess what he's saying. And then makes the imaginary reader flip millions of explanatory pages which all decrease the likeliness of evolution happening if somehow the particles that formed the Big Bang existed. So while the Bible obviously does not include even the slightest explanation for God just being I am, and always have been, tricky wording, not really sure what you're saying there, I don't find the evolution explanation of the Big Bang components even existed any bit reasonable either. Sorry about the conclusion with the author, didn't realize that the last part is irrelevant. So, let's break this down. I don't think anybody has actually seen God. Well, some people have claimed to, and it's enough evidence for them to strongly believe it. There are people who will die to prove that they have seen God, or heard God, or felt God. Sure, prayers can be answered. I don't believe that's true. Prayer has shown, there have been studies that have shown that prayer has no effect on anything whatsoever. Things just seem to work out because of him. No. What about all the starving, disease, and hunger, and poverty, and murder, and rape, and everything like that in the world? What about that? Do those things work out? Because it doesn't seem like it to me. As for the people who are saying that, I'm guessing that they dreamed it or they made it up to get people to believe and thought that they were doing something good. I agree fully with you on that one. I believe that people who say they've heard, felt, or seen God, or whatever God they believe in, it is definitely a dream or an illusion, or it's just their brain concocting what they want to see. This has to do with the fact that everyone always sees the God that they believe in. They never see a different God. So that just, it's because they believe in it so strongly. For example, so the best way to look at that is it's been studied, and when you see a face in a dream, you can only see faces that you've already seen. Your brain does not have the ability to make up faces it's never seen before. So if you see a face in a dream, it's because you've seen that face before. So when you see God, it's only because you believe in him. It's not, you believe and you've seen his face, like in your church if there's a Jesus hanging there, or you've seen like pictures of your God, and it's because it's what you believe. Yet people have seen Allah, people have seen Zeus, people have seen Hades, people have seen every fucking God that's ever existed. They've seen him personally. Now, I know you're not making an argument here. I just want to make that clear to the audience, not to you. As for creation books getting dismantled, that's because the majority of scientists are atheist, which is true, just as the majority of doctors are Christian, which is false. Most scientists are doctors. They're doctors of philosophy, not doctors of like medicine. And doctors of philosophy and doctors of medicine are both made up of majority atheists, but doctors of medicine, it's significantly less of a majority. So of course they're going to get dismantled by scientists with a degree in evolution, with arguments revolving around evolution. And that's true. I agree with you here, because a creationist book is going to get dismantled by a scientist because evolution disproves creationism. And so, yes, a creation book will always get dismantled by scientists because scientists understand evolution, creationists don't. Now, here's where you go wrong. Creation may start with the conclusion, but evolution starts with the beginning of a few molecules of who knows what, Which, how did they exist in the first place, or the physics that made them exist, or even the explanation for their existence? Well, it's simple. Evolution has no claim on that whatsoever, and it has no basis on its truth or not. Whether the beginning was God created a few molecules in the beginning, or our current hypothesis of the amino acids came on like asteroids and stuff like that. Whatever the explanation is at the beginning, it has no effect on evolution. Evolution is simply from that point, whatever came. Abiogenesis is what comes before that. From that point on, whatever happened, it's a fact. We know evolution is a fact. Evolution is only the explanation of how those molecules turned to man. That's it. There is no other explanation. It has no claim on the Big Bang, no claim on how old the universe is, no claim on how the universe started, no claim on how on abiogenesis, nothing. Evolution is a sound fact, whether you like it or not. Search up evidences for I think there's a video called "Evidence for Evolution Made Easy" or something like that. Look that up on YouTube, and it's a great explanation of the evidences for evolution. We know more about evolution than we know about gravity. We know more about evolution than we know about germ theory. We know so much about evolution, and we know it's so extensive. Like, if you look at the evidence that we have for evolution, it's so extensive that we know it's a scientific fact. But once again, it has no claim on those things, and then makes the imaginary reader flip millions of explanatory pages. Well, evolution is a long and tedious thing, but it's actually quite simple if you just look at it. Evolution is change over time, and we can observe change over time. We have observed change over time, so it's a factual thing. But then you say, which all decrease the likeliness of evolution happening if somehow the particles that form the Big Bang existed. Well, the evolution happened. There's no likeliness. It happened. We know it happened. We have seen it happen personally. I think it's some sort of fruit fly has such a short lifespan that we are able to observe so many generations of it that we can see macroevolution in its finest in these insects, which is unbelievable, and it's a great amount of evidence. There's nothing that decreases the likelihood of evidence because we have unbelievable, insurmountable amounts of evidence. Now, if you're talking about chance, yes. If you want to talk about the chance of you being here, it is minuscule. Because if you think about it, if your parents, and this is going to sound gross, but I'm sorry, if your parents had sex in a different position, you wouldn't be here right now. If your parents didn't have sex on that specific day, you wouldn't be here right now. If your parents hadn't met on that specific day, say if they met on a bus, they took a different bus or something along those lines, or one of them got sick, you wouldn't be here right now. If your grandparents, the same thing, had sex in a different position, had sex on a different day, or didn't meet, you wouldn't be here right now. And this goes back for generations. And it also has to do with other people too, because if your parents were set up by someone else or met through someone else, if that person didn't exist, then you wouldn't be here either. The chances are minuscule of you being here, but guess what? You still are here, and it's because of evolution. You happen because things happen to go in that order so that you happen to be here. Otherwise, there would be someone else in your place, most likely. Now, you say, if somehow the particles that form the Big Bang existed, well, nothing formed the Big Bang. The Big Bang is a scientific fact as well. We know it happened. The only question we have right now is how did those get there? Which the Big Bang makes no claim on how those particles got there either. The Big Bang is simply the outward expansion of the singularity at the beginning of the universe that caused everything to be as it is today. That's it. It has no claim on where those molecules came from. That's a whole nother question that we have theories about that we don't know for certain yet. Let's see. And it also, no matter how those molecules got there, it has no effect on evolution. If God created those molecules, if God created the singularity before the Big Bang, and then the Big Bang happened and everything came to as it is today, the Big Bang is still a scientific fact. Evolution is still a scientific fact. It's just God created those things, which I don't believe is true. We have great theories that actually have some evidences. There's no evidence for a God doing this, but whatever. We're not going to argue that part. So while the Bible obviously does not include even the slightest explanation for God just being I am and always have been, I'm not really sure what you're trying to say there. I'm sorry. I don't find the evolution explanation of how the Big Bang components even existed any bit reasonable either. Well, that's because the Big Bang has no explanation on how those components existed at all. Once again, evolution is simply from the first particles forming on Earth, no matter how they got there, to how they are today. We have studied this so much that we know for a scientific fact that that's how it happened. And there are some gaps. I mean, there are gaps in the phylogeny tree, but it's still, we know enough to know that what we've seen is scientific fact. And we have, there's also evolutionary theory, which is the study of the body of facts that surround evolution. And the strength of a theory is based on its predictive capabilities. And the things we have been able to predict with evolution, the theory of evolution, is unbelievable. It has to do with being able to predict, like Tiktaalik, for example. Tiktaalik is a transitional fossil that existed a long, long time ago. Now, there was a gap. We had no clue what was in that gap. So scientists, using the theory of evolution, looking at things around it, made a complete guess. Looking at those, they had nothing to go off of, no fossils, nothing to go off of. And they made a guess on what it would look like, its features, how long ago it existed, yada, 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 all these different things. And they found it exactly as they predicted it. And that's just one example. They have many more. So evolution is a scientific fact. It has no claim on the Big Bang. It has no tie-in to the Big Bang. The Big Bang has no tie-in to evolution, except for that if it weren't for the Big Bang, evolution wouldn't exist because nothing would exist. The only thing that's up for question right now, the only place where, quote-unquote, God exists, and there is any question in science, well, there's a little bit on abiogenesis, but we have a pretty strong theory for that. The only question right now is before the Big Bang. How did those particles get there? How did that singularity get there? Now, there are a couple different scientific theories that actually have some evidence, that have some reason, far more than a God. My personal favorite is the eternal argument, basically that the universe was eternal before the Big Bang because time didn't exist. Time exists only inside the universe. So before the Big Bang, time wasn't a factor. Time wasn't ticking. It wasn't a thing. And I know that's extremely hard to wrap your brain around. There are some scientists who are able to explain it in a very simple way that actually it's really simple if you look at it, but it's kind of hard to wrap your brain around, and it's really confusing because you're so used to time always existing. But that's my favorite theory, is just that the universe was eternal because time never existed. It was just there, and then the Big Bang happened, which I know is hard to wrap your brain around, but that's a pretty good theory. There's also like the multiverse theory, where there are multiple universes, and ours was born from one of them or created by one of them. I'm not exactly sure how the multiverse theory goes, but yeah. That's the only place where there's any confusion. There is no confusion in evolution. It is undeniable scientific fact. There's no confusion in Big Bang. It is undeniable scientific fact. We are pretty sure on abiogenesis how the particles got there, but it has, once again, no effect on evolution whatsoever. We know those particles got there somehow. We just don't know how they got there. And we know for a fact, 100%, that those particles then formed to create different beings that evolved more and more and more and more and more. And guess what? That's how we're here today. Whether you like it or not, I'm sorry to say it like that, but that's how we know. Thanks for watching, guys, and have a nice day.